Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Wader. You know that man next to me, rocking the Russell Westbrook UCLA jersey. That is the Austin Hill. No jersey for me, just very simple shirt to tell you what time of year it is. It's March, which equals one thing, March Madness. Had a little bit of a break after our last episode because, well, we need to study up. We had to get our research on our teams. We had to watch Champ Week. So that's what we've been up to as of late. Nonetheless, Austin, we've got brackets to talk about here. We've got brackets to talk about.
Yes.
But, of course, we wouldn't be remiss without talking first about how last year went for us. And I would say I remember yours, but I don't. I somehow today I was cleaning out and I found my bracket from last year, which is
Wow.
kind of funny. That's just funny how that worked out. So my final four last year was UConn, Arizona, Houston, and Creighton, and it was an Arizona Creighton national championship with Arizona winning it all.
Let me get it pulled up here. ESPN keeps track of last year's, which I didn't realize.
I
So I'm
didn't know
gonna
they did that either.
pull up my for real bracket. Well, I could have guessed that this is who I had winning it all, but I wasn't for sure. I had Illinois um, versus Creighton, which did not come to fruition.
I forgot how high we were on Creighton last year. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Um, I'd love to say that I learned my lesson, but
We'll see here. But before we get into the men's bracket, we are going to talk real quickly about the women's bracket, which also tips off this week. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to give our final four picks on the women's side. And of course, national champion, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you'll get the gist of that. But Austin, I'll let you go first. Give me your women's final four.
So with regional 1 and 4, I've got UCLA, USC, two 1 seeds meeting up. And then I have in regional 2 and regional 3, I have North Carolina and TCU. And in those matchups, I have USC and TCU moving on to the national championship.
All right. So for mine, I have UCLA coming out of their region, but they're playing UConn in the final
Okay.
four. I like UConn to get out. Just so we can say Juju Watkins versus Paige Beckers in the Elite Eight. That's going to be some good television. Let's just say that. I have South Carolina versus North Carolina in the Elite Eight just for fun reasons. And I got South Carolina winning that. And then Texas, I think, will come out of their region. So I got UCLA, UConn, South Carolina, and Texas. And I've got a UConn, South Carolina, a good old fashioned UConn, South Carolina national championship. But who do you have coming out on top in your national championship?
I've got it being a close one, but I think avenging all the doubt, all the hate, I've got Haley Van Lith leading TCU to the national championship this season.
I like it. I like it. Hey, potential rematch with Louisville in round two. There you go. Going to be a fun one there. For me, it's kind of simple. Me, UConn went to South Carolina and just humiliated them earlier this year, beating them by 30 plus. I don't think that'll happen again, but I think the guard play led by Paige Beckers and them, I think they're the better overall team. South Carolina have one of their best players suffer season ending. So I'll take UConn to get back to the mountaintop, for the first time in what's felt like a long time, but it's really been like 4 or 5 years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they figure that out. But that is our women's brackets. Now we're going to dive into the men's brackets where I think we feel better about our knowledge wise with that one.
Yes.
But we first got to talk before we get into the brackets about this bubble that happened here. And boy, oh boy, is it interesting. It was intriguing the whole week. We really only had one bid stealer this week. Shout out Colorado State winning the Mountain West, taking care of it from Boise State. But this bubble coming into the week, entering Selection Sunday, people didn't really know what to expect. They thought maybe they had an idea, and then it popped up on the screen. So let's talk about it. The last four in Texas, Xavier, San Diego State, North Carolina, and then the first four out West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio State, and Boise State. Austin, first reactions when you saw this bubble.
Um, I was a little bit disappointed. North Carolina, has not really been good all year. I think they're the most obvious undeserving team of anybody. Obviously, with the thing we were talking about yesterday, UNC's AD being the head of the committee this year, obviously that doesn't make things feel better about that situation. But I said this to you when we were talking yesterday. I didn't love 14 SEC teams in. I know the conference is super strong, and I know there are a lot of teams that in other conferences probably would have dominated. You look at, I'd be comfortable saying not necessarily dominated, but Arkansas probably could have had a good year as a Big 12 team or in one of even the smaller conferences. They've got tons of talent and a Hall of Fame caliber head coach. But I just think that you shouldn't be giving teams prop for hypotheticals or because they lost to really good teams or they lost in a really good conference. I think we should be rewarding teams that win games. So I don't like Texas or OU. Arkansas gets a little leeway, a little bit biased. But they've also got a loaded team. But it's really the Vandy, Texas, Arkansas-ish, and Oklahoma that throw me off here when we could have had other teams like a Boise State team who was told all week that they were going to make the tournament uh, just to lose their conference championship and then be told that they're going home. West Virginia, another team that looked like they were going to make the tournament. So I think there were some questionable decisions this year. I don't think that loading the conference with more teams should mean you get more teams in the tournament. I think that should make it harder to have to fight. Texas and OU added to the SEC. I think that's great for competition and makes your resume look really good. I think it helps with Auburn and Florida getting those one seeds. But I don't think that when you go 8 and 10 in conference or even worse, that you should be getting helped out because this is a full conference. I think that that means teams should have to fight harder to get in. That should be the trade-off to joining a power conference, a super conference.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Yeah, let's just address it like it is. North Carolina getting in, stunned pretty much every single person that was even paying attention to the bubble this year. Let's just address it like that. Obviously, the athletic director for North Carolina being on the leader of the committee is the question mark. But also something I learned today is he got a $104,000 bonus if North Carolina made the NCAA tournament, which once again makes it even worse.
Yeah,
I
that
just
you should have to remove yourself from the situation. And if you've got money riding, I mean, this what is the difference between that and gambling? I
exactly.
mean, he might as well put $104 million down on North Carolina to make the tournament this year. It's the same thing. That's crazy. Yeah,
Um,
that's crazy. I can't believe that makes it even worse.
it really does, but obviously, of course, they got asked the questions after like after the poll after the bracket was revealed, and they were basically saying it like I was out of the room. Committee members, whenever it's a team involved with them, stay out of the room. And I get that that's something that they do, but you mean to tell me that the leader of the selection committee doesn't have any influence on the rest of the committee there when it's their team? I mean, that's just something. And the thing that bothers me is the way they said it. They said the reason North Carolina got in over West Virginia was an injury for West Virginia with Tucker DeVries, who's been out. He's been out since December, and West Virginia still played good basketball. So that just doesn't help the case with it at all. As far as teams that didn't get in, look, I don't even want to hear it from people with Indiana. You wanted to fire your coach mid-season.
Yeah,
I don't think, and he got you that close to the NCAA tournament. I don't think you deserve to get in.
I agree.
I'm with you though. I thought Boise State was in. I thought Boise State for sure, and
Again,
with beating New Mexico. Yeah,
they
with
were
beating New
told
Mexico.
they were in all season. They were told or all week. They in the conference champion or tournament. They were told they were in. I mean, if you watch the Mountain West Conference Championship, that's all they talked about. They were like, really, the only person that has anything to gain from this game is Colorado State. If they win, they steal a bid. It's crazy that that we have this talk about a team that's in all week and then they're not in when North Carolina and Texas and Oklahoma need a spot.
It's bad there. I will say Ohio State being on the first four out surprised me. I didn't even consider them on the bubble this year, so That's kind of surprising with me. But I mean, the North Carolina and Texas one's interesting. Xavier's played better as of late, so I don't
Agreed.
hate that one as much. San Diego State, I don't hate as much there. But Texas and Xavier, it's and Texas and North Carolina, it's interesting. I'll just leave it at that. It's
Yeah.
interesting. But now, Austin, let's get into this bracket. We're going to start with the first four, which begins tomorrow night, which, might I just say, we got a pretty good first four matchups. Even though it's
Yeah.
questionable who got in, the matchups are pretty solid. Let's start with the first 16 seed. We'll start with 16 seed matchups first. Alabama State from the SWAC taking on St. Francis in the first four. I'll just be honest with you. I always root for the SWAC champion in the first four, so give me Alabama State. Nothing simpler than that.
Yeah, I like Alabama State. Look, these are two teams that I don't know a ton about, but I'm going to root for Alabama State in this one. They went out on a good old fashioned coolest mascots bracket for me.
That is true. I haven't done my mascot bracket yet. I plan to do it later today, though, so don't worry. But yeah, I'd take Alabama State. And then the other 16, you have Mount St. Mary's taking on American University Eagles from Washington, D.C. Well, first of all, God bless America with that school. And I feel like I feel like it's not being an American if you don't pick American University. I feel like it.
Yeah, I'm going to go against it though. I'm going to take Mount St. Mary. Nothing against American, but
Wow. This guy
Mount
hates
St. Mary.
American. Let it be
Yep,
known.
I hate America. Probably not a good time to be saying that.
But it should be a good matchup between the two Mount St. Mary's. Had to beat Iona to get in there, and then American took care of business in the Patriot League. But let's get to the last four in matchups: North Carolina and San Diego State. An interesting one here for several reasons. You know, this is some would say a down year for San Diego State, still very good defensively. North Carolina had a good non-conference resume, but they've struggled against some of the best teams in a weak ACC. So nonetheless, North Carolina, San Diego State. What's your pick here?
Look, I like San Diego State in this game. I just don't think North Carolina had the kind of season to make this tournament. But I will say this: I think this is the kind of team and the kind of staff that can be fueled by a ton of negativity coming into this saying we don't belong. They've got the talent. If they could come in and get fired up and spin this story to turn this into fuel for the fire, they could be a scary team here in March. But I like San Diego State. I like this team and their defensive approach. It always leads to a nice run in these tournaments. I like San Diego State and their defense. Defense wins out in the NCAA tournament.
That's fair, but you brought up my exact reasoning here is I think North Carolina, with all the negativity hearing about it, I think they're going to win this first four game. I think they're going to get the win in this first 4-1. I think it'll be a very low scoring game. But I think at the end, when it comes down to shot making late in the game, I would lean more North Carolina there, and that's nothing personal with San Diego State. It's just how the teams are made up there. But nonetheless, here, the next matchup, the final one from the first four, Texas taking on Xavier here. Interesting with Xavier, of course, from the Big East. Texas had to win a lot in the SEC tournament to get into the dance here. Who do you got in this one?
I like Xavier here. I like the Musketeers. Give me some action here. I think overall, I like what Xavier brings to the table. Though, like you said, both these teams have been playing a lot better as of late compared to how they started this season.
Texas has the best player in the game in Trey Johnson, but the better team is Xavier. So I'm going to roll with Xavier with you on that one. But that's it for the first four. Let's talk about the main bracket now, Austin. So before we dive into our picks here, I just want to know we're going to go region by region and just your first thought whenever you saw it. Let's talk about this South region, which is an interesting one for Auburn. You know, you got Michigan, A&M, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Michigan State in there. Your first thoughts when you saw this South region?
Yeah, this is a grind fest here. We could see the national champion come out of this region just because I mean you're basically being thrown straight into the fire. You're gonna have to be playing your best basketball in every game. Um, Man, I mean, even you look at some of these teams like in Iowa State. Lipscomb really dominated their conference this year. Number one regular season champ, conference champ. These are not easy games. You talk about probably the best two teams that are playing for that 11 seed in San Diego State and UNC based on talent. You look at Yale and the kind of season they've had, UC San Diego, Creighton. I like, we talked about, I love Creighton basketball. And Louisville had a great year. So yeah, when I look at this, it's a good but tough region. You got to be playing your best basketball every single night.
As far as Iowa State goes, we'll get to more of that in a bit, but dealing with some injuries too, obviously, on their team. So that's something else to keep in mind. But enough talk. I will say this. Some of these second round matchups have so much intrigue. New Mexico versus Michigan State's one for me. If they were to meet up in the second round, that could be a really fun one. Same with Auburn and Louisville. I thought Louisville could have been a little bit higher than an 8 seed, especially if North Carolina got into the field. But you take what you can get there. But enough talk, Austin. Give us your first round in this South region.
All right, starting off in that 1 versus 16 game. No matter who comes out of this first four game, I like Auburn taking this game. I think even though they kind of got knocked around at the end of the season and had a disappointing end in the SEC tournament, I think they come out guns blazing and get the job done. In the 8-9 matchup, I like Creighton over Louisville. Like I said, I like Creighton basketball. I think Louisville's had an awesome, awesome year. Second best team in the regular season in the ACC. Really good year for them. I think they're just running into the wrong team in the first round, kind of like we talked about how tough this first round is. Um, in the 5-12, I like Michigan in this. I think this is going to be a close game, but I like the two 7-footers and the talent that they bring to this Michigan front court. I think if these guys are playing their best basketball, even though this team hasn't played its best as of late, I think if these guys are playing their best basketball, or I shouldn't say as of late, but going into the conference tournament, they had a good conference tournament. Don't let me fool you there. But heading into the conference tournament, they had a rough finish to the regular season. I think if these guys are firing on all cylinders, it's already hard enough to stop one 7-footer in college basketball. Stopping two is basically impossible. At the 4-13, I like Yale over Texas A&M. I think some of these SEC teams are going to be in for a little bit of a rude awakening coming into this. While I think the conference is tough and the teams are great, I think that's going to lead to some bigger heads thinking, hey, we handled the SEC, we can handle anybody else. I think Yale's the kind of team that can come in like I had with Princeton. Was that last year or a couple of years ago? Upsetting Arizona in the first round. Something about these Ivy League schools, I like the way they come into the tournament playing. It's not an easy conference as much as you might think it is. 6-11, I like San Diego State or UNC over Ole Miss here, kind of for the same reasons I like Texas A&M going down. I like these teams coming in and facing these SEC teams and showing them that there's a little bit more to college basketball than just what the SEC has to offer. I like Iowa State in the 3-14 over Lipscomb. Like you said, dealing with the injury issues, but I still feel like there's enough talent on this Iowa State team to get the job done in the first round. I like New Mexico over Marquette. New Mexico's had a great, great season out there. What disappointing ending in the conference tournament, though. But I think they come back guns blazing. And then Michigan State over Bryant. I really like this Michigan State team a whole bunch. I just wish they hadn't taken a terrible shot in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. They might have won the Big Ten championship this year.
I think so. I'll start with my obviously Auburn versus Alabama State. Yeah, I think Auburn's going to at least get out of the first round there. Although Auburn's lost 3 of their last 4, so something to keep an eye on. I'm going to take Louisville in this game over Creighton. I think Creighton's a decent team. Obviously, they rely on the 3-point shot a lot more, but I trust in the Louisville defense more than Creighton, so I'm going to rely on Louisville to win that one. Michigan versus UC San Diego, or as some will say, San Diego, as it is rightfully pronounced. Those who do know, they know. But listen here, with Michigan, they on a roll. Obviously, talk about the Big Ten championship. They played really solid. They do have one thing that hurts them, and they turn the ball over a lot, which hurts them. And they are going against the number 1 team in forcing turnovers and not turning the ball over in the country in UC San Diego. And a lot of length in the lineup, all can shoot the 3-point shot. Give me UC San Diego in its first year eligible to make the NCAA tournament. They're making it to the second round here. I like them to upset Michigan. I 100% agree with you. I like Yale over Texas A&M. My main thing here, A&M, they have to play such a scrappy style. They can't shoot worth a dang. They can't shoot. They rely on offensive rebounding for their offense. And you know what, Yale, they're a very good offensive rebounding team. And the way they play their defense, they kind of pack the lane to make people beat them with the three-point shot. And A&M hasn't been able to do that all season. So I think it'll be a physical, tough matchup. But I'm with you. I like Yale to win that one. I have UNC versus Ole Miss. Same reason as you. I like the winner. No matter who wins that game, I like the winner to beat Ole Miss in this one. Mainly because I think Ole Miss, they play decent defense. That'll get them there. But I worry about contribution scoring wise for everyone. Sean Padula can shoot it for him. He's a great shooter. But I worry about other guys late in games. And I would probably lean with UNC to win that one. Iowa State and Lipscomb, Keyshawn Gilbert's obviously the one, I believe he's second on the team in scoring and first in assists or something like that. He's out for the rest of the season, so that hurts. So Lipscomb has a lot of shooters on their team, so this is something to keep an eye on. If this game is close late, I would honestly lean Lipscomb because obviously your second lean scorer, you're going to need guys to step up scoring wise. Meanwhile, for Lipscomb, I saw in the ASUN championship, they had their 20-point per game scorer who was doing good. And they had Joe Anderson, their point guard, step up and have a huge game in the late moments of that game. So I think it'll be close, but I'll with you. I'll lean with Iowa State for that one. And then New Mexico over Marquette. This is an easy one. For anyone who doesn't know, I am one of the biggest New Mexico stands on the planet. I say a quote, it's one of the weirdest ones. When New Mexico is good at college basketball, it makes the sport better to me. It's a weird statement. I know. It's just what I think. And then Tom Izzo in March, he ain't losing to Brian in the first round. So I'll take Michigan State there. But Austin, who do you got getting to the Sweet 16 out of the South region?
In my Auburn-Creighton matchup, I've got Auburn over Creighton. Then I've got Michigan over Yale. Iowa State over San Diego State. And then Michigan State over New Mexico. I like a lot of these matchups, and I really like having some of these top seeds kind of flicker down into the later rounds of this tournament. But in this one, like we talked about earlier, it's a tough round. The champ could come out of this region. And so I like some of the top dogs, all of the top seeds that I had here to move on to the next round.
Well, I agree with you on Auburn, although I have them taking on Louisville. I think it'll be a close game. We got to remember, these are games that are going to be in Lexington, Kentucky. So this is virtually a home game for Louisville against Auburn. So you never know there. So I keep my eyes open. I'd take Louisville there. UC San Diego versus Yale. Oh, my goodness, what a fun matchup this would be if they went off head-to-head. But again, I like the UC San Diego to make its magic run continue. My first double-digit seed into the Sweet 16 are the Tritons of UC San Diego. And then UNC versus Iowa State. This is where I think the injuries could hurt Iowa State as of late. And I wouldn't say they've been at their best as of late without Gilbert. So give me North Carolina to upset Iowa State in the second round, get to that Sweet 16. And then New Mexico, Michigan State. If New Mexico was playing any other 2 seed, I would probably pick them. But again, it's Tom Izzo in March. This is probably the best team he's had at Michigan State since 2019. I'll take Spartans to advance there. But Austin, finish out your South region and let us know who you got making the trip to the Final Four.
All righty. Then in the matchup of Auburn versus Michigan, again, I think this comes down to something I like about this team a whole bunch is I got Michigan moving on in this one. I like their size. I like their talent. Like you said, Auburn heading into this tournament, this is not the best position to be in as a 1 seed who's had a bit of a losing spell as of late. I think Auburn is going to do what they've done these last few games, and they're going to kind of put themselves out of the game. Their mistakes are going to push them away. Michigan's going to take this one and get the job done. And then Iowa State versus Michigan State. I think this is the best Michigan State team we've seen in a long time. I like Michigan State to take down Iowa State, move on, face Michigan, and in a clash of Michigan State, dirty, nasty rivalry here. I like Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans to head to the Final Four.
I would love a Michigan Michigan State Elite Eight matchup. That would be fun. I color me intrigued if that does happen.
Yeah.
For me though, Auburn, UC San Diego. You have no idea how close I was to picking the Tritons to upset Auburn. You have no idea, but I'm going to pick Auburn to get to that regional final there. And UNC Michigan State, talk about this matchup. I mean, brand wise, UNC and Michigan State going at it. Again, I'll take the Spartans here. And Auburn, Michigan State, this is where I think the physicality and the toughness to defend Michigan State's going to hurt Auburn some. So, yeah, give me Tom Izzo and Michigan State to get to the Final Four just like you. Whenever I first saw this South region, I felt very confident I was picking Michigan State to the Final Four. And after going through it all, it comes out there. So, Michigan State to the Final Four for both of us. Let's move across now to the East region. You got Duke taking on Duke in this region. Obviously, Austin, the question mark, Cooper Flagg, ankle injury. Supposedly, he's going to be back for the NCAA tournament. We'll see. But this region's interesting. You know, you got Oregon, Arizona, you've got BYU, who's a lot of people are loving, Wisconsin, you've got Alabama, who can do it scoring. It's an intriguing region here in the East. Your first thoughts when you saw this one?
Yeah, this is a fun one, but to me, at least kind of the way I look at it, I think Duke got some of the easier, 2, 3, and 4 seeds here. I don't hate Wisconsin. I actually think they're a little bit underrated coming into this, but still, I don't think they're quite as tough. Alabama, I'm not super in love with Alabama, but I also hate Nate Oates. And then Arizona hasn't been quite the team I expect them to be this year, even though, they did make it to the Big 12 championship. But still, I think Duke maybe, just in my opinion, got a little bit of an easier cut here with the way this region's set, especially comparatively looking at the region we just looked at.
That was my first thought too, was wow. Duke got a really easy path for a team that's hopefully going to try to get Cooper Flagg back. And I'm going to say something, it might be controversial to some. I don't think they need him for this first and second round. I really
Yeah.
don't think they'll need him against either American or Mount St. Mary or Baylor, Mississippi State. I don't think they'll need him. Now, will he play in those games? Of course he will.
Yeah.
But I really don't think they need him to get through those first two. So, but yeah, that's my first thought there. The other one I saw, which we'll get to in a bit, St. Mary's in Alabama. Talk about opposite styles of play, slow pace mounts with St. Mary's that will just infuriate you. And you got Alabama who likes to run up and down. That would be really fun. But Austin, give us your first round in this East region.
Alrighty, in the East, I've obviously got Duke over American or Mount St. Mary. Then I've got the Mississippi State Bulldogs over Baylor. I've got Oregon over Liberty. Arizona over Akron, though I was this close to taking the Zips. I really like the way the Zips have played this year. My big upset of this round is VCU over BYU. I really like this VCU team. Watching the way they played in their conference tournament, it is going to be so hard to score on this team down low. Their paint presence is unbelievable. They do not make mistakes. You're going to really have to beat this team outside the arc. And while this isn't the greatest three-point shooting team of all time, if you can't get layups to go and you can't find consistency, this is going to be a tough team to beat. I like VCU moving on to the next round. Then I've got Wisconsin over Montana. I like St. Mary's over Vanderbilt. Big St. Mary's guy. I love the way this program's run over the last few years. I always like kind of the run they make in the tournament. And then I got Alabama over Robert Morris, as much as it pains me to take Alabama.
Yeah, as far as for me, yeah, I think Duke will win the first round. Mississippi State Baylor is an interesting one. I'll just go, to me, honestly, with the better coaching in the matchup, and I'll take Baylor there. It's nothing against Mississippi State. I think it's a very even matchup. Oregon and Liberty, man, oh man. Had it been another 5 seed, I probably would have picked Liberty here. But Dana Altman, all he does is win in the NCAA tournament at Oregon.
Mhm.
So Arizona, Akron, I was right there with you. I was this close to picking Akron. They don't start anyone taller than 6'7". They run such a fast-paced offense, shoot the three. I'm like, this team is so much fun to watch. Had to overcome an 18-point deficit in their conference championship. Yeah, I was this close, but I think the guard play of Arizona will be enough just to sneak by in that one. Um, Word for word again, I'm right there with you. I have VCU over BYU for your exact reasons. The one weakness that BYU has is paint presence, and VCU is there to absolutely dominate down low, rebounding wise. And they have such a good defensive team with Ryan Odom there that I think it could give fits to BYU. I know a lot of people like BYU to make the Elite Eight or make a big run, but I'm with you. I like VCU in that one. Wisconsin versus Montana. Now, I don't know how much of the Big Sky Championship you saw, but Montana shot lights out in that game. Shot over 60% from the field, 60% from three, and nearly 90% from the foul line. And they scored 90 plus points with that shooting. So if they're red hot like that, maybe, but I'm going to roll with Wisconsin there. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. Oh, this pains me because I'm a big Vandy guy, but I love St. Mary's just as much as you are. Big St. Mary's guy with the pace they play, and also best rebounding team in the country. If you know me, you know I like myself some rebounding. So I like St. Mary's there. Alabama versus Robert Morris. I'll take Alabama in that one. But obviously, Grant Nelson's health is a big question mark going into it. I will say, though, my mom, whenever she looked at her bracket, she said she could see an upset happening here with Robert Morris. So if we come back to it, my mom could be a genius here if Robert Morris upsets Alabama.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But Austin, who's going to the Sweet 16 in this region?
I like Duke over Mississippi State. I just don't like we talked about earlier. I just don't think there's a lot of firepower from either Baylor or Mississippi State here to put Duke down with or without Cooper Flag. Then I've got Arizona over Oregon. Close one here, former Pac-12 matchup. Now a Big 12 versus Big 10 matchup. But I like Arizona here to take down Oregon. Then I've got VCU over Wisconsin. I find myself falling in love with one of these lower seed teams. It happens every year, but VCU is my little team here, making a run on into the Sweet 16. And then I've got Alabama over St. Mary's by the slimmest of margins. I think last year I took St. Mary's over Alabama. I think they're in the same region last year. But this time I'm going to lean with Alabama and let them make a ride to the Sweet 16.
Okay, so for me, I like you. Duke versus whoever it is. Again, I feel like they'll win. They'll advance easily, I think. Oregon versus Arizona is an interesting one. Both teams with a lot of good size inside. But I'm going to roll with a coach that's had success making Sweet 16 runs in March Madness, which is Dana Altman. So I'll take Oregon to beat Arizona there. VCU, Wisconsin, I was close with you. I was close to picking them. But in the end, I gave it to Wisconsin to sneak by the skimmest of margins. St. Mary's, Alabama. Give me St. Mary's here. Again, I think the way their style of play is matching up with Alabama, I think works out perfectly. Plus, such a good rebounding team. No Grant Nelson potentially in this matchup. I think hurts Alabama. Give me St. Mary's in that Sweet 16. But Austin, finish out this East region. Who will be your second team in the Final Four?
In Duke versus Arizona, I like Duke to win this game. I think they've got the talent to get it done. Arizona will put up a fight, but by this point, Cooper Flag should be healthy enough to be taking this game over again. If he's not, Arizona, I could see them winning this game, but I think with Cooper Flag, it's going to be too much for Arizona to handle. And then another little shocker for you here. I got VCU over Alabama. I love this team. I love the ball they play. I think they can definitely bring a matchup to Alabama, especially if they've got the momentum of a BYU and Wisconsin upset with them. I think they could keep on rolling right in that Elite Eight. And then in Duke versus VCU, this was close. Again, if Cooper Flag's not healthy by this game, this VCU could be a real handful for Duke. Again, that paint presence, that physicality could be something to upset a lot of teams in this tournament. But if Cooper Flag's back and helping do everything that he does on the floor and he's healthy, which I think he will be by this point, I got to go with the Duke Blue Devils. As much as I want to put VCU in the Final Four, I got to go Duke here.
Think about it here. The only other time VCU made the Final Four is an 11 seed, played 1 seed Kansas in the Elite Eight and beat them. So I mean, you never know. It sets up the way it's set up. I thought you were 100% picking VCU there, but I get the
Yeah.
argument for it with Duke. But as far as for me, Duke versus Oregon, if Cooper Flag, again, I'm with you. I think he should be healthy by this point. If he's not, I could see Oregon winning this game, but I'll take Duke here. Wisconsin, St. Mary's, give me St. Mary's over Wisconsin here. Again, I think that pace of play and they're rebounding the way they do it. It's such a tough pace of play to go with, especially with this Wisconsin team that likes to run up and down. It's such a contrast in styles. I'll take St. Mary's. So I got a Duke St. Mary's matchup in the Elite Eight. And something that Duke is that I'll give credit to them in this kind of matchup, they're not a super high paced team when it comes to it offensively. And I think something that could unfortunately hurt St. Mary's. And if Cooper Flag's 100% back 100%, I like Duke to the Final Four, just like you. So I got Duke winning. So there you go. Michigan State and Duke in the Final Four. Now let's move down to this Midwest region, which is home to the Houston Cougars. Of course, Austin, it's another year of Houston being a 1 seed. Will they get to a Final Four again for the first time since 2021? We were going to find out as this Final Four is in San Antonio, so we'll see. But you have Gonzaga as an 8 seed. Nonetheless, we're going to talk more about that one, obviously, probably in the second round. You have Clemson, who's there. Purdue, the runner up. You're fighting Illini in Illinois. You got Kentucky, and you've got Tennessee. Again, first thoughts from this Midwest region.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Like you said, Gonzaga being at 8, bit of a fall for them over the last couple of years. Uh, then you've got Clemson being at 5, another team that I thought was really fun to watch in the ACC this year, helping rise themselves up. Man, this is a good one. But of course, my Illini can't get a break. Texas and Xavier barely make this tournament, and they're two teams that could legitimately give Notre Dame, or not Notre Dame, Illinois fits here. Um, if these teams match up. Um, Man, this is an interesting side of the bracket. But it is a little bit SEC heavy with 3 SEC teams here. So that'll be interesting to see how those guys kind of shake out.
I will say though, if Xavier wins, how about that coaching matchup? Sean Miller versus Brad Underwood in round one. That's
Yeah.
an awesome coaching matchup if they get to go head to head. That's such a fun one. But Austin, give us your first round in this Midwest. What do you got here?
I in our 116, I got Houston taking it. I think they're a good enough, talented enough team to make it on to at least the second round. Then I've got Gonzaga over Georgia. Uh, Georgia's had a fun, good year, but I think March Few and the Bulldogs get the job done here in the first round. Clemson over McNeese State. McNeese State's another one of those teams close to picking, close to picking, close to picking, but I like the way Clemson's played basketball this year. I've got Purdue over High Point, another team I really wanted to go with an upset here. But something about Purdue as well, and kind of the success they had last year. While they don't have the same team, I think that they've got some positives from last season to build off of. Um, then I like Illinois in their matchup over Texas Xavier, but it's going to be probably razor thin. This is not the draw I would have wanted for the Illini if I could have rigged it. I would have wanted certainly a better situation for myself. Then Kentucky, Troy. I like Kentucky, but they're kind of a mixed bag this season. We'll see what Kentucky shows up. But if it's the Kentucky their best days, then this should be a walk in the park for them. Then UCLA, Utah State. I like Utah State in this game. Honestly, man, they've just had a great season. I think they could win this game big with the way they play the game of basketball. And then at 2:15, I like Tennessee over Wofford. Tennessee's another team. Rick Barnes puts together good basketball teams, and I just sit down and watch, and then I sit down and let the team run through my bracket. So I got to go with Tennessee here. Love the way Rick Barnes and his Tennessee teams play basketball.
All right. So as far as me, I like Houston over SIU Edwardsville. Shout out them for their first ever tournament bid, winning the Ohio Valley. Gonzaga versus Georgia. I think Georgia's been playing good as of late, but they got such a terrible matchup for them. I like Gonzaga to win that one. Clemson, McNeese. I've been high on McNeese all season long, but I think this is just such a bad matchup for them in Clemson. So I'm going to, unfortunately, I hate making this pick because I love McNeese, but I'm going to roll with Clemson here. Although this, Austin, I think is my biggest shocker of the first round. Give me High Point over Purdue here. High Point has such a great rebounding team, such a great shooting team, and they have such a deep bench. I love this High Point team a lot. I like them to upset Purdue in the first round. Illinois versus Xavier. This one I flipped on a lot. And you'll see later on in my bracket, I basically had the winner of this one going pretty far. I like Illinois just because they're kind of a streaky team, and if they get red hot in this game, they could pull away from Xavier, I think. Kentucky versus Troy. Oh, I wanted to pick Troy so bad. I wanted to pick Troy so bad for obvious reasons. We all know why, but I think Kentucky will at least get to the second round here. UCLA, Utah State. I'm exactly with you. I think Utah State wins this one comfortably. I think they win by double digits. There's always that like 7 seed or 10 seed where you're just like, I completely forgot about that team. That's kind of me with UCLA, if
Yeah,
I'm being dead honest with you.
I'm with you there.
So I like Utah State and Tennessee Wofford. I don't think it'll be close. It'll be a low scoring for Wofford. Bold prediction: Wofford does not score more than 50 points in this game. Give me Tennessee. That's my bold prediction for that
Wow.
game. But Austin, who's heading to the Sweet 16 from this Midwest?
With Houston versus Gonzaga, I like Houston to continue their run, keep on going. But Gonzaga, they've got Mark Few's got experience. He knows how to get it done. This is not going to be a walk in the park for Houston. I like Clemson over Purdue. I think Purdue had a good season, had a good run. But again, I like the way Clemson plays basketball, and I think they could come out and surprise some people in this tournament. Then I've got Illinois over Kentucky. I think Brad Underwood is just the kind of basketball sicko that can make runs in the NCAA tournament. I think he can come out and with his talent and his skill on this roster and his genius, I think he can come out and outmatch Mark Pope in this Kentucky roster and beat them even on their best of days. And then, as much as I wanted to go with the Utah State run here, I've got Tennessee. Like I said, I like Rick Barnes. I like this Tennessee team. I like the fight they brought. They beat Auburn in the SEC tournament. That's huge for them. I think this is going to be a very tough team to stop in the tournament.
All right. So as far as mine, Austin, this is where you get the chaos bracket for me. Give me Gonzaga over Houston in this one.
There
This
you
one
go.
is literally a coin flip for me on this. It's going to be such a fun matchup, but this Gonzaga team is playing so well at the right time. Houston's defense, we know what it'll do, but they rely so heavily on the 3-point shot mainly that it worries me when they take on such a balanced team like Gonzaga. So give me the Zags. Plus, Mark Pope hasn't missed the Sweet 16, I think, in 9 years or whatever it is. Make it 10 this year. Give me Gonzaga. Clemson versus High Point. I like High Point to upset Clemson in this one. I like High Point to go pretty far. Again, such a deep bench, great shooting, and if they miss, they are one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. I like High Point to get to the Sweet 16. And then Illinois versus Kentucky. I'll just say it like this, Austin. Whoever was winning between Illinois and Xavier and mine, they were beating Kentucky. It really didn't matter who at this point. But I have Illinois. To me, like I said, they're such a streaky team that if they win the first round game, I think their hot shooting will continue in the second round against Kentucky. And I'm with you. Utah State, such a fun brand of basketball, but Tennessee's so good on the 3-point line defensively. I'm going to lean on Tennessee to win that one as well. So I have Gonzaga versus High Point. I have an 8 versus 13 matchup in the Sweet 16 here. Call me a sicko. Don't care. Austin, finish out your Midwest.
Love a good sicko bracket. Unfortunately, it doesn't get that this way in this region. I've got Houston over Clemson, and Tennessee over Illinois. Illinois, Clemson, fun basketball, fun teams. But I think when it just comes down to it, Houston and Tennessee are the better basketball teams. They're going to bring their best game. And I like Tennessee over Houston. I think Houston's going to get just this close to the Final Four. But Tennessee's the better team. They're going to be outmatched. I think where Tennessee's really going to win this game is the defense. Like you said, Houston so heavily relies on that three ball. I think Tennessee can bring that kind of defense and physicality that slows down Houston and makes them play a different brand of basketball.
All right. So as far as me, I'll just go ahead and say it. Illinois versus Tennessee, I'm with you. I think Tennessee will win that one over Illinois. Gonzaga versus High Point. Oh my goodness, what a matchup this would be. This is where I think it ends for High Point, though. I think Gonzaga will take care of business here. So despite the seeding being weird in an 8v2, we get Gonzaga versus Tennessee in an Elite Eight, which would be a fun matchup, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Gonzaga is such a balanced team offensively that they can shoot the 3-point shot they need to, attack the basket, go through the post. I like them to upset Tennessee, and eight
Okay.
seed Gonzaga is going to the Final Four. You heard it here first. Again, it's always about, I mean, I always say the stats. Since 2013, there has been at least one team seeded 5 or higher that has made the Final Four. It's just about finding the right team. We rarely find the right team, but they're out there somewhere. So
Yeah.
we'll see about there. First difference of our brackets thus far, and we have one more to go here in the West region. And Austin, this one's been nicknamed by a lot of people the death bracket because my goodness, you've got Florida, you've got UConn, you got Maryland with the Crab Five, Missouri and Drake, Texas Tech, who's been red hot at times. Then this bottom half is insane with Bill Self versus John Calipari. And then you got Rick Pitino playing the winner of that one, most likely in round two. I mean, this bracket is just insane, Austin. So, I mean, your first thoughts when you saw this West region?
Yeah, like you said, powered up. Honestly, I was surprised again seeing Arkansas in this bracket. I mean, obviously wanted to see them in. This is a talented team that could make a run in March. But again, it just kind of felt like some of these SEC teams didn't do enough to impress me. But seeing them in a matchup with Kansas, I thought, wow, what a gift. Not that Kansas is going to be an easy game. But you're talking about it. UConn's the 8. You could have flip-flopped those two teams at 7 and 8, and you might end up playing UConn. Or you flip with Oklahoma at 9 and 10, and you end up playing UConn. I think that's a tougher ball game. Kansas just hasn't had the season we expected, but they were still the number one team in the preseason, and they still have that talent. That team is in there somewhere. So while on what we've seen this season says a lot of positives for Arkansas, what we know is in there in Kansas is going to be tough. But yeah, this is a crazy part of the bracket. Some surprises. But yeah, these are going to be at the very top. This is a tough, tough, tough region to play in.
So let's not forget Kansas and Arkansas played in an exhibition game before the season started when Kansas was the preseason number one. Arkansas won that, but it was an exhibition game, so it really
Yeah.
doesn't matter much there because that was literally well before the season. But nonetheless, Austin, let's get into it. Talk about the final first round of your bracket here in the West region.
Yeah, and the 1 versus 16, this is the one I'm closest to picking a 16 over a 1. I love this Norfolk State team. They play some fun basketball. Getting to watch them in their conference tournament was a treat. But I hate that they're playing against Florida because I think Florida has put it all together coming into this tournament. They're playing some of their best basketball. I like Florida to win this game, though I will have some brackets where Norfolk State takes this one away.
Yeah,
And I love that now kind of the state college basketball is in. What, we've had two 16 seeds now in the history of the NCAA tournament beat a 1 seed. It feels more and more likely every year. The field feels more and more balanced from top to bottom. And so I like being able to have that diversity. And I like being able to look out for which 16 seed is going to pull off the upset. I've got Norfolk State, and I like it. But I'm going to take Florida here. Norfolk State in some of my brackets, but in my main one, in my main pick, I'm going to take Florida here. UConn versus Oklahoma. UConn hasn't had the season you expected from a back-to-back national champion looking for a three-peat. But Oklahoma could give them a fight. But I think if we see UConn at the top of their game, this is going to be an easy win for the Huskies. So I've got the Huskies moving on to the next round. Memphis versus Colorado State. Had you asked me this game before the conference tournaments, I would have told you Memphis by 50. But I've completely flipped on that. Colorado State is going to be the better team coming into this game, just with the way they've played. I think they're going to just come in here and outduel a Memphis team who, to me, has just looked lost. Even though they won their games in their conference tournament, it was not impressive. They played way too many close games, trailed way too much in this conference tournament. This should have been, dusting it off. Easy, we're in the NCAA tournament, and yet they fought tooth and nail. They have one of the most talented teams in college basketball, but they just haven't put it together as of late. I like Colorado State to upset in this game. Then Maryland versus Grand Canyon. I love the Terps and everything they bring. I'm going Maryland all day. One of the easier picks for me with this team. Drake versus Missouri. Drake always brings an interesting team and a fun team to the NCAA tournament. But I think Missouri comes in and takes some of this momentum that they had just from this season compared to the season they had last year, where they find some positives and dig deep and win this game. Uh, Another easy one for me, Texas Tech. I love the brand of basketball Texas Tech plays. I like the roster they've put together. You talk about this NIL collective at Texas Tech. I mean, look, they were good at basketball before that, but now you look at these last couple of years with this NIL collective. Football's only going to get better for Texas Tech. Basketball's only going to get better. Texas Tech is going to be a team that's going to be reckoned with in college sports for the next few years until some of these other programs can start catching up on these NIL collectives. So I like Texas Tech and the brand of basketball that they play to move on to the next round. And Arkansas, Kansas in this matchup, I like the Hogs to take this one against Kansas. Probably a little bit of bias going into it, but Kansas not the season they wanted, not the season they expected. Arkansas, maybe they were confident going into Selection Sunday that they'd be here, but now that they're here and validated by that, I think these guys and these top tier talents finally get their stuff together. You got Boogie Fland coming back. The team seems like it's playing its best team basketball as of late. Hopefully, adding one more talented athlete to that lineup helps this team take them to the next level and move on to the next round over Kansas. And then the easiest pick in the bracket, St. John's is going on in this next round. I love this St. John's team. Rick Pitino, look, had a lot of controversies off the court, but when it comes to getting on the court and coaching a team, there's nobody that does it quite like Rick Pitino. Oh, this St. John's team is going to be very, very scary in this tournament. I like them over Omaha by 1,000.
Right. All right. So as far as me, I will say of all the 1 versus 16 matchups, if Cooper Flag doesn't play, watch out for American versus Duke. I'm just saying that. If Cooper Flag doesn't play. If he doesn't play, watch out for American versus Duke. I think he will play. But if it is, SIU Edwardsville, I think could give Houston some issues with their shooting, and they play lights out defense just like Houston does. So that could be a really fun one. But I like Florida to beat Norfolk State. UConn, Oklahoma. Thank goodness Ole Miss beat Arkansas on a buzzer beater. Otherwise, that probably would be us in that 9 seed. I like UConn to win this one. Dan Hurley's at least getting to that second round. Memphis, Colorado State. I'm with you here. I like Colorado State easily. I think they're the better team in the matchup. Nique Clifford. Learn the name if you didn't already from Champ Week. The man's a problem for Colorado State. Maryland Grand Canyon. For those of you who do not know, my mom is a diehard Grand Canyon fan, so she is rooting for Grand Canyon here. Just because they're the Antelopes, she loves that nickname. But no way I'm picking against the Crab Five. That's one of the best nicknames I've ever heard in my entire life. Give me the Crab Five to advance. Missouri versus Drake. You said easiest pick was St. John's Omaha. This was my easiest pick. By a million, Drake is going to win this game. Drake, I just love the style they have, slow pace. They're so good defensively, efficient offensively too. Missouri has been hot and cold at points this year, not very consistent in that SEC, talking about it. Give me the Drake Bulldogs here. And then, Austin, I told you in our last episode, I had a sleeper team that I've been eyeing all season since the start, and this is them. Texas Tech over UNC Wilmington. I love Texas Tech. I love their offense. I love the brand of ball they play. It's such a fun team to watch. Easily them. Although that second round matchup between Drake and Texas Tech is like having two girlfriends and you want to marry both of them. I mean, you don't know which one you're going to pick there. Um, Arkansas versus Kansas here. I mean, there's just no other way to discuss it. Arkansas is going to win this game. I don't know how. It'll be ugly. It'll be a very low scoring game. It'll probably be in the 60s, but Arkansas will find a way. And it will be John Calipari versus Rick Pitino in round two because I got St. John's beating Omaha. Um, Rick Pitino versus John Calipari is must watch TV. So I hope that happens to say the least. But who you got going to the Sweet 16 from this West region?
I like Florida over UConn. I think UConn's a talented team, but like I said about Florida, they've got it together. They know what they're doing. They're going to keep running in this tournament and have some fun. Uh, as much as I like Colorado State, I love the unit that Maryland's put together. I think they go on and move on to this Sweet 16. Texas Tech, easy over Missouri. This is a team to watch out for in this tournament. They are going to be scary. And then I like St. John's over Arkansas. As good as Arkansas is, as talented as they are, I can't pick against the Red Storm. This is a team that, again, just what Rick Pitino does is it's a masterclass in coaching. How he puts these teams together and just gets it going. Rick Pitino, man, this is a good team. I like this team a lot.
As far as mine go, Florida and UConn, I feel very confident Florida's going to end up winning that. Colorado State, Maryland, this has a chance to be a sneaky instant classic if these two go head to head. But again, I'm rolling with the Crab Five. Give me Maryland there. Drake versus Texas Tech. I love them both, but I'll probably lean with Texas Tech here. Again, they've been my sleeper the entire season. I will say, Austin, you talked about NIL at Texas Tech. Don't forget softball. They got the number one player in the transfer portal to come to play at Texas Tech, Najari Kennedy, the softball pitcher who took Stanford to the World Series as a true freshman. So that's going to be a problem. So you're absolutely right. Texas Tech in all sports is going to be a problem. Arkansas versus St. John's. You think about it, it's a good matchup for Arkansas shooting. Both teams aren't the greatest shooting teams. They like to be physical defensively. The difference, though, Austin, every game I've watched St. John's as of late, you'll watch it. The first 30 minutes of the game, it'll be a close game for both sides. But the final 10 to 8 minutes of the game, St. John's turns it up to another level. So as much as I love Arkansas here, I think St. John's is going to end up beating them here. But if you would have told me in January that Arkansas would have won a game in the NCAA tournament, I would have been dancing. I would have been perfectly fine with that. So, yeah, give me St. John's in this one. They just turn it up to a different level in those final few minutes of the game. But, Austin, finish out the final region of this bracket.
In my Florida Maryland matchup, I like the Gators to move on. And then St. John's, Texas Tech, I like St. John's moving on. And then a matchup versus Florida and St. John's, I like Patino headed back to the Final Four, ready to make his mark on this NCAA tournament. Give me the Red Storm.
Okay, going with Rick Pitino there. Florida versus Maryland is such a fun matchup. The thing that I think hurts Maryland here is they don't have the greatest bench in the world behind the Crab Five, and Florida is such a tough team. I mean, my goodness, they can score 90 points a game and yet will play lights out defense to go along with it. I mean, it's tough. So I'll take Florida there. Texas Tech, St. John's. This is where I think the poor shooting of St. John's haunts them. That's the one thing they're bad. 29% free throw or 3-point shooting team. I think that hurts them there against Texas Tech. I'll take the Red Raiders to the Elite Eight. And Florida versus Texas Tech. If Florida was not red hot right now, I would probably pick Texas Tech here. But Florida's red hot right now. They're such a great team right now. They're rolling. I'm going to take the Florida Gators to get to that Final Four. So let's recap here. Austin, your Final Four is
Michigan State versus St. John's, Duke versus Tennessee.
all right. And as far as mine go, I got Michigan State taking on Florida and Duke versus Gonzaga. There you go. There's some fun matchups there. But Austin, how does your Final Four play out? Give us your national champion. Lay it all out for us, Austin.
I like St. John's over Michigan State in a nail biter. I wish that this matchup didn't have to happen because I like this Michigan State team a whole bunch. Um, and then I've got Tennessee over Duke. I think the grit of this Tennessee team could push them over the top. But in a Tennessee versus St. John's matchup, I'm gonna do it. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I can't believe I'm doing this. When I finished making my bracket, I was actually almost sick to my stomach at what I'd done. I didn't realize when I like blacked out, and then I was looking at my national champion, and I couldn't believe it. But I'm gonna take the Red Storm. I'm taking St. John's and Rick Pitino's second year to go all the way and win the national championship. If St. John's and Tennessee play in the national championship, this will be a great game. Talk about some fantastic defense. Like you said, the way St. John's plays, they turn up the pressure at the end of the game. They force so many turnovers and they capitalize. This could be a low-scoring, instant classic between St. John's and Tennessee. I like the Red Storm and Rick Pitino to get the job done.
The Michigan State versus St. John's is already insane enough of a matchup, but St. John's versus Tennessee for a national championship, first to 50 is going to win that
Yeah.
game. My goodness, do not take the over in that game. That will be such a fun one. But as far as mine go, I got Michigan State taking on Florida. And in the end, I think Florida is just red hot now. They can beat you in high scoring games. They can beat you in low scoring defensive battles. And I think that hurts Michigan State here. I'll take Florida. And then Duke versus Gonzaga. If it gets to this point, I'm expecting Cooper Flagg to be 100%. He will be fine here, and I think he will take over in this game for Duke against Gonzaga, and I like Duke to take him down. So I have 2 1 seeds matching up. I got Florida versus Duke in the national championship, but man, this Florida Gators team is just red hot right now. I can't bet against them here. Such a balanced team and can do it either way, whether it's a high scoring game in the 80s or 90s or playing in a physical grudge match. They can do it either way. Give me the Florida Gators to win the national championship here. So there you go. We both have our national champions coming from the West region. Florida for me, St. John's and Rick Pitino and the Red Storm for Austin Hill here. But Austin, that is our brackets. We've given our predictions. Now is the best part of it all. Sitting back and watching basketball for the next 2 weeks, really even the 3 weeks, I think, if you include the Final Four, obviously. It's finally here. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, just ready to sit back, unwind, and watch some great basketball. We've waited all year. We've been good boys and girls, and now we're rewarded with a fantastic NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Bull Take Podcast, our March Madness episode. Let us know. We're going to make this post on Instagram. Let us know. What's your Final Four picks for March Madness? What's your biggest upset pick? There's a lot that could be going on here. Let us know. We'll let you know for sure the next episode. It most likely will be an NFL free agency recap, which I am dreading making until the Steelers figure out what the heck they're doing at the quarterback position. I don't want to talk about it. I know this man wants to talk about it because the Chicago Bears are having one of the greatest off seasons once again. So Ben Johnson's getting you an O-line, man. Ben Johnson's getting you an O-line.
Yeah, it makes me more excited about what can be done with 10 now that the offensive line has had a little bit of a makeover in free agency.
Then you're going to draft Ashton Jeanty because he needs a great running back for that offense. You're going to get Ashton Jeanty in that draft too. I'm not going to lie. I might pick the Bears to go to Super Bowl if y'all get Ashton Jeanty. I'm just saying. I mean it wholeheartedly. If y'all get Ashton Jeanty, I might place money on a Bears future to go to the Super Bowl.
I will need a Bears Jeanty jersey like I need air. I will probably be buying it as soon as the pick is in.
But that'll be it for this episode. Who knows when that episode will come out? We'll get that all figured out. But that's going to do it for this one. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader, and we want to thank you for watching and enjoy the madness.